Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, August the 1st, 2012. The time is 6:05 p.m. We are the Board of Directors for the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority. This is the regular meeting. We're in Round Rock, Texas. Ms. Megan, would you please call the roll?
Yes. President Fielder?
Here.
Vice President Fuller?
Here.
Secretary White?
Here.
Director Moore? Director Whitfield?
Here.
Director Cantwell?
Here.
Thank you. We're going to move to item number 3, proclamations and special recognition. Item 3A, consider a proclamation recognizing Mr. Michael F. Thuss, P.E. Mr. Thuss, if you'd stand up and come up to the front, that would be great. I'm going to ask Mr. White to present. Let me pull that tag off there. Did sign it.
Thank you.
Present
Thank
that
you.
to
It's quite an honor to this the City of Round Rock official proclamation. Know all men by these presents, whereas the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority Incorporated has recently completed the first phase of a new regional water system serving the cities of Cedar Park, Leander, and Round Rock, and whereas the 3 partner cities representing the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority Incorporated would like to recognize Michael F. Thuss, professional engineer, a retired colonel in the Army Corps of Engineers, for being instrumental on the regional water project, and whereas he has been involved with the project since July of 2009 as the program and construction manager overseeing the construction of the first phase of the regional water project, including the construction of a temporary floating intake structure on Lake Travis, a 78-inch raw water pipeline along Trails End Road, a new water treatment plant with an initial capacity of 17 million gallons per day, and a treated water transmission pipeline. And whereas he has taken charge of the daily management of the construction project and has worked closely with the Operations Committee in order to efficiently manage multiple construction contracts, and whereas the project has proven to be a success with less than 1% in change orders and the completion of the first phase on schedule and approximately $40 million below project budget. Now, therefore, I, Chris Fielder, President of the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, hereby recognize and thank Michael F. Thuss, professional engineer, for his service in successfully managing the first phase of the regional water project. And it's signed by Chris Fielder, Mayor and BCRUA President, Matt Powell, Mayor Matt Powell of Cedar Park, and Mayor Alan McGraw of the City of Round Rock. So,
Cool.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
You bet. Would you like to have the floor for comments?
I would. Well, thank you very much, and I'll accept this, but I'd like to accept it on the behalf of especially the city engineers, Sam and Michael Thane, and Wayne. Is Wayne here? Wayne's not here, and Kenneth Wheeler. They're here. Actually, they made all this possible for me to get this award, and I really appreciate their support and inspiration and guidance in doing this. And I'd also like to thank the board for your support and encouragement in getting this done. None of this would have gotten done without the board's support. So thank you very much. It's been a real hoot, as they say, the last 3 years, and I've really enjoyed it. This is probably my, besides my service in the Army, this is probably my most enjoyable project in time. So it's a nice one to kind of go out on. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Thuss. Board, is there anything else for Mr. Thuss? All right, we're going to move to item 3B. Consider special recognition for Mr. George White. Mr. White, as the outgoing president, we've got a real nice plaque here for you. One of the things that they always say, that if everyone got a plaque, it wouldn't be special. So this is definitely a special. In recognition of your dedication and efforts on behalf of Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority Incorporated, a regional partnership of Cedar Park, Leander, and Round Rock, George White, Board President, 2011 through July 2012. Your service to the citizens is greatly appreciated. We thank you very much for the last year.
Oh, thank you. Please.
You've got some big shoes to fill, and I've got little feet, so we're gonna.
Well, that's you just took my line. I said I said that it was really a privilege and a pleasure. I had some big shoes to fill when I came along. We had two great presidents prior to me, and I tried to keep it between the lines and out of the ditches, and thanks to a lot of people's help, and a lot of them are sitting out there in the audience, we were able to do that and reach that first phase, and I feel very, very good about the future and the way we're headed. So congratulations to you, President
Great.
Fielder.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate you. Board, anything else? Okay. We're going to move to item number 4, citizens' communications. Are there any communications, Ms. Megan? Does anyone wish to address the board? Okay. We're going to move to item number 5, approval of the minutes. 5A, consider approval of the BCRUA meeting minutes for June 20th, 2012.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 20th meeting.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, presentation. 6A, consider presentation regarding the BCRUA project's status report. Mr. Thuss.
All right, well, this, I'm going to summarize a lot tonight and not go into too much detail, but I'll just give you the highlights. This is the map that, of course, is in the beginning of the report, and just quickly in summary, the barge, of course, is completed and the contracts are closed out. The underwater pipeline is completed and the contracts are closed out. The raw water line up Trails End Road is completed and the contracts are closed out. The water treatment plant is nearing completion, and the completion date for it is September the 4th. There's still some operational issues that need to be tweaked. You wouldn't expect a plant of that size and that condition not have some startup issues, and there's some with the chemical pumps and the analyzers, and some of our big pumps are having some trouble staying on. They just turn off for no reason at all. And so some of those things are being investigated. There's still, the filters need to be repaired. Some of the filters need to be repaired, but those are all startup issues. The plant's only been in operation for less than 30 calendar days and just over 20 days. And the good news on the plant is that water was delivered when it was needed, and it's still being delivered. And so we still have some work to do between now and the 4th of September, but the plant is operational and producing water thanks to the operational staff there. And I might add the cooperation of Cedar Park and Leander. Their operational staffs have helped very much in getting that the plant really functioning well. The plant is more in a manual mode than it is in a automatic mode, and they're moving rapidly to getting it into that automatic mode. And that's another item that needs to be tweaked a little bit is the SCADA system. But overall, to be where we are today, delivering water at this peak time in the summer for the health and safety of citizens of Leander and Round Rock, I think is a great achievement. Segment 1 is done except for, and that's in the process of being closed out. There's just a little bit of concrete work that needs to be done on a trail for erosion control. And segment 2C, we should get the closeout paperwork on it, if not this week, early next week, and it'll be closed out. There's really not any additional work that needs to be done there, so it's substantially complete and within a day or two of being finally complete. So everything except Section 2C and the plant are essentially complete and closed out. I did want to show you a little bit about the organization chart because it's going to change after tonight. All right. Of course, there's the city councils, the city managers, and then the BCRUA board, and I would have to change. I didn't change the president. Didn't occur to me to change that, but I'll get that changed right after the meeting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then we have the Operations and Finance Committee, and then we used to have a program and construction team, which is right here. Well, after tonight, that's going to change, and what you'll have left of that, essentially on the 10th of August, that office or this office will close. There's no sense spending money for people to sit around, and so that office will close. You will still have, though, the plant and the barge inspection staff, WRM and David Dial and Associates. They'll still be available, and they'll still be working with Chris and Jason Bryan for the completion of the plant. So most of this organization goes away, but the inspectors will still be there to finish up the plant. Then on the contractor side, in this part, you'll still have the Pepper Lawson working on the plant up until the completion in September. But all these other organizations are essentially complete and will go away. So almost this whole box will go away. Now, what you have, what's been added and moved out of the program and construction management is the operations and maintenance group. And of course, you have a good superintendent, Jason Bryan, and he has his operators. You have support from each of the 3 cities, and then you have the institutional knowledge from construction is provided by Jeff Bell of Round Rock and TJ Dawkins of Cedar Park. So they are the institutional knowledge of, they've been with the construction since it started, and they know where all the files are. They know how to get into all of that. And so they're the construction support for the operations and maintenance department, which is now stood up and it's functioning on its own. So in summary, these 2 boxes will essentially go away. The program and construction management team and the contractors, most of them, although Pepper Lawson and all of the construction folks associated with the plant will still be there to support Jason and Chris as they move towards total operation and the final closeout of the plant. So I think we're well organized for that and well equipped, and there's a lot of institutional knowledge. And so I wanted to show you that. I think things are going to continue to go very, very well. And then the last thing I'll show you is just the. We could go over each project and talk about the good things and the bad things, but I think actually there are not really many bad things. It's all pretty good. But still, we started with 171 million. We're still at about 130 million in the current working estimate for the project for the whole program. Almost 41 million in savings. And there's still $2 million in contingency, and I don't think we're going to spend hardly any of that. So that's going to get converted over into savings. So you're looking at close to 42, maybe and a half million in projected savings. Now remember, please, I am not a finance and accounting firm. I have not done an audit on this. This is my calculations based on invoices and so forth that have come in. Your finance and accounting folks will tell you the exact number, but this you can rely on for general purposes and for planning purposes, I think. But I don't keep this to the last penny, but pretty close, I think. If you said that there was going to be about 4.2 million in savings, I think you'd be pretty close. Or 42 million in savings. You can see the construction curve is a little bit lower than what we had scheduled, but most of that is retainage. So the work has already been done, it's just the retainage hasn't been paid. And then as far as the administrative budget or the operating budget for the construction management, we're right on the button of where we said we would be. We're not above or below. There's still some money left there for some work for August, but we will, as I said, close the office in next week from Friday, and so we should stay right on that curve and not spend a penny more than we thought we would spend, or you all authorized us. Everything is good on all of the projects. The only everything is fine there. Change orders, we had 34 change orders for $1 million, which is 0.8%. So I mean that's less, and 68% of that was a planned change order. so we knew that was going to happen. So when you really look at it, we knew we were going to have that change order. So that was an expected change order. So when you really look at the change orders, the unexpected change orders, it's very, very, very small amount. No other issues. With respect to what we thought we would give you, for example, reports, we said we would do 8 this year. We've done 11. We've had 220 meetings versus the 130 that we had planned. We've had contacts with 922 folks versus the 601. So you've certainly gotten out of that administrative budget the work that was supposed to be performed. And I think the other one was documents. We had expected to process about 1,800 documents, and these are all legal documents that need to be in the file. We did 1,806. When you put that together with just last year's, that's over almost 5,000 documents in the last 2 years that are all critical to the project that need to be in the file so that you can track all the things that are happening. So with respect to that, to our standards of performance, they were all exceeded. I think, let's see, with respect to all of the contracts, they're either closed out or in very good shape. I think the only one that we would, I've talked with Chris about that we need to monitor is the CDM construction phase services contract. They're getting very close to their not to exceed amount, and so we just want to make sure that they have enough funds to finish out the plant. But that, of all of the contracts, that's the only one that needs to be just monitored. And I think that is all I'll discuss. If you'd like to talk about any of the individual projects, I'd be happy to do that. But they're all in fine shape. I think one of the things that I'm the most proud of, which occurred over a year ago, was Trails In Road. As you recall, we had set a standard for we didn't want more than went down and had a meeting with the folks along Trails In Road at one of their homeowners association meetings, and they agreed with me that if we had more than 2 complaints a week, that were legitimate complaints, not just requests for information, but something that we probably didn't do as well as we could have done with respect to the public. We wanted to keep that. They thought that was 2 a week was a reasonable number, given the magnitude of this project that was going through. And we achieved about a 1.3 a week while that project was going. So yeah, we did have some complaints, but we took care of them, and it was less than what they thought was a reasonable number for it. And we stayed in communications with them about that. And so getting Trails In Road done with nobody's going to, they're not going to be happy on Trails In Road. They're just not going to be, but at least we achieved the standard that we had agreed with them about.
We left the road better than we found it.
And we left the
That's
road
the bottom line.
a lot better than we found it, and so I'm very, very, very proud of that one. But unless you'd like to talk about some other, of course, I'll publish this report. It'll all 27 pages will be there, hopefully on our webpage.
Mike, just thank you for the last, all your work on this project in the last few years. I mean, the plant is in the city limits of Cedar Park. It borders a park, Veterans Memorial Park, that we're very, very proud of. Your outreach that you did with the folks that live on Trails In Road, and I think some people in my neighborhood may have complained a time or two in the Gan Ranch neighborhood of Cedar Park, but you were very, very aggressive and very you took that very seriously about the citizen outreach piece of this. And I think clearly we have an example of how government is supposed to work. If only the national government functioned this well, we would all be better off. But I think we've set an example for the LCRA, the Texas Water Development Board, and how we fit, small as it may be. It's a large project where we are, but in terms of the state water plan, it's a great success story. So thank you very much.
Sure. We actually had 11 in 3 years. We've had 11 complaints, documented complaints on the water plant.
Cool. Thank you, Mr. Thuss. Anything else?
All right.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you all again.
We're going to move to item 6B, consider presentation regarding the BCRUA Quarterly Investment Report for April 2012 through June of 2012, and we will have to have an action accepting and approving this. Ms. Patterson? You have 3 minutes, Ms. Patterson, to address the board.
I think, and here's the,
I've got a timer here. I can start it for you if you would like.
Don't start yet, don't start.
I think it's there, and I think there's the bar if you want to.
That's to minimize it.
Well, that thing launches missiles over there. That's a heck of a timekeeper right there.
What else, Maggie?
Oh, that little bar.
Those kind of things. don't bother me.
All right. That's, well, I have to click fast here since I know that none of you want to hear anything more about the global economic situation. So I will pretty much go through that. I can't find graphs that go up, they just don't exist. It is very puny progress everywhere along the line. And of course, globally, when this report was written in the end of June, our focus was on Greece. Now our focus is much more serious. It's on Spain, much bigger part, the third largest economy in Europe. And this is a situation that's not going to go away, even if Mr. Draghi thinks he has a magic pill. It's not there, and it's not going to be solved easily. The point of all of that is to explain what's happening on this particular graph, and that is the yield curve. And you can see that where you primarily invest, where your authority to invest has been set, is out into the 2 and 3 year area. That's where the bulk of the money has always been. And it is just flat out there. There's no yield. That's 0.5 going out into the 5 year area. So it's being aided and abetted by the fact that we are the reserve currency of the world. All the commodities trade in the dollar. The dollar is the safest in the world, and therefore everyone wants a part of it. So everyone climbing after it is applying the pressure on the front end, putting the prices up and the yields down. You can see the difference where the arrow is out in the longer end, and that's your Fed working. Over in here, and that's because they're doing a twist operation. They're keeping the mortgage rates low, and they're also quite definitely pushing people towards riskier investments. If I had to say what's going on right now in 2 words, it would be 2%. We have less than 2% in GDP growth. We'll probably come in closer to 1.5 this year, and you can't improve, you can't grow when you have 2% going at any time. The other thing is that you have 2%, less than 2% inflation, and that means the Fed has full reign to do whatever they want, and they can keep these rates low as long as possible. Fully expect these to be where we are this time next year. It might improve a little bit after the election, whoever wins, and that's because there will be a little bit more certainty. And since I've used 1 minute there, okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the money. In the first bucket of money is the construction funds, of course. Some spend down there. We're being very careful and working with Chris very carefully to watch the spend down. So you've gone over this period from $17 million to $14 million. I think it's very, as bad as 0.66 looks, it's actually pretty good. What we're using, you can see on the right-hand side of the pie there, we're using a lot of municipal debt, high-grade GO debt, and that debt is running and yielding at about a 0.72. So a really good rate for you. It's wherever you have that liquidity on the front end, which you have to pay the bills, it pulls the whole portfolios down. You can see we're spreading it across, trying to provide a ladder there. On the debt service funds, this is very liquid right now because they're preparing for another debt service payment. So up about $2 million, but also very liquid. So unfortunately running at about a 0.12 yield for the quarter. And that is sitting totally in the local government investment pool. The escrow funds up considerably from $19 million to $27 million. Here again, we're using municipal debt, try to get the rates back up there, and the portfolio ended at a 0.66. You can see the breakdown there. The municipals are only 30% of this particular bucket of funds, and so we have a lot of the funds still in the pools, and that's pulling it down even farther because those municipals actually are running at a rate, which I love to say because it's left of the decimal point, at 1.8. The reserve Leander funds, these are totally liquid. This has been a continuing problem, just getting over some legal hurdles and some planning hurdles on it. So that is, again, just sitting strictly in the local government investment pool. You've heard your reports. You know that construction has been going along quite steadily, and you can see it over the last 6 months or so, steadily declining on the blue bar here. The debt service, of course, builds up to make the debt service payment and down. The escrow account growing and the reserve staying absolutely equal. What that's done has, and by us using municipal debt and state and local debt, has increased the overall weighted average maturity of the portfolio from 93 days to 104 days, still relatively short. But using the municipals, the callables that we used for so long and that we reported to you for so long are just hard to get. Anything United States government issued or their treasuries or agencies is very difficult to find in the market anymore. So what we come up with overall, if you look at the third quarter of the fiscal year, you can see the drag on the portfolio from the debt service and reserve funds. That's because those are being kept very liquid and running about 12 basis points or so. But the construction fund and the escrow fund up around the 0.66, 0.64 area has averaged out for a total portfolio of a 0.55. And as I say, that sounds horrible, although it's sounding better and better every day. It actually, if you look at the one-year agency at the bottom of the chart, you'll see that that one-year agency, so the highest we can get in governmental debt has averaged 28 basis points, or 0.28% over the period. And translating that into dollars, if you go on the lowest end, the one-year agency versus your portfolio at a 0.55, your portfolio has outperformed your agency benchmark for 1 year by $34,000. Did I make 3 minutes? Close enough, I hope.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions?
Board, this is an action item.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the presentation in item 6B.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Patterson. We're going to move to item number 7, resolutions. Item 7A, consider a resolution approving the BCRUA annual operating budget for fiscal year 2012-2013. This is subject to the approval of the participating cities. Mr. Lippy.
Mr. President and Directors, let me just make a few comments about the proposed budget for fiscal year 2013. You'll see Exhibit A that's attached to your item shows that the proposed budget is $1,932,373, and the allocation for that amount between the three cities is defined in the operations agreement entered into a couple of years ago by the cities. The debt service of $10,453,402 is, of course, the allocation on that is defined by the bond series, the Water Development Board bond series for each city. So the total is $12,385,776. Wanted to just give a couple of comments on the operating budget itself. First, that the current year's operating budget was based on 6 months of operations. It was in construction, assumed it was going to be in construction up until the 1st of, I guess that would be 1st of April, and then 6 months of operations. And this year, of course, it's now based on a full year of operation, so the cost almost doubled. Actually, it went up 90%, not quite doubled. Major categories of cost, and let me. You have a handout that I'm going to put this here, and I'm not positive how it's going to show up or if I need to move it around. Oh, wait, hang on just a second.
Clockwise, there you go.
But you have a hard copy of this in your handouts, and this is just the line item budget. Again, these are the line items defined in the operations agreement. So these are the categories, and they're allocated and shared among the cities depending on whether they're fixed costs or variable costs, and whether a city is taking water or not. So that's all factored into that operations budget and the way it's allocated. Major categories of cost, to try to summarize this, let me just give you 4 categories. 60% of this budget is power and chemicals. 20% is personnel and related benefits. 5% is maintenance of the lines, barge, pumps, and SCADA system maintenance items. And then less than 10% is administration, such as accounting and audits and legal and insurance. So that accounts for, I think it's like 95% of the costs in this budget are in those categories. So we do recommend that you approve this budget and pass it on to the cities.
Board?
One quick question. Can the legal fee line item of $40,000, can any of that be used for government affairs?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. And if not, there is a point out a contingency item in there as well. That's a 3% of the budget. That's noteworthy.
Okay. Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the annual operating budget for fiscal year 2012-2013 as presented.
I second.
Been a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And motion will carry. We're going to move to item number 8, Director closing comments regarding community interest. We'll start down with Mr. Fuller.
Mayor, Mr. President, I look forward to working with you next year in your new role. I've got your flank.
Great, thank you. Appreciate you. Ms. Cantwell?
Congratulations, Mr. President, and thank you, former President White, for doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, thank you, Mr. White, for
George, good job.
making this transition very easy. That's always very nice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the comments, and it has been, as Colonel Thuss said, it's been probably one of the highlights. I've participated in hundreds of projects, and I really appreciate the board, working with the board, and more particularly, and I don't know if we can say it enough, the operating committee and everything that they've done through it, and the city managers that have helped steer us through this for the last 3 years. I really appreciate your efforts, and it's been a privilege and a pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Director Whitfield?
Well, I'd just like to say thank you, Mr. Thuss, and for your leadership and getting us through. This has been an amazing project, and many thanks to you. Congratulations, Mr. President, and thank you, George.
Great.
Good night.
Thank you. We're going to move to item number 9, executive session. 9A, consider executive session as authorized by 551.071 Texas Local Government Code regarding consultation with the BCRUA attorneys regarding the development regulations of the Village of Valente. We are in executive session. We are adjourned.